Hey everyone! This week I'm coming at you with another episode of travel tips, and today we're talking about my most useful travel items that I've traveled with myself. First things first, I give you my most favorite travel item is a miniature sewing kit. And yes, I know the plastic here is broken. It is because I've carried it around for years. It's from the dollar store. I'm actually surprised that it's lasted this long, but I'll show you what's inside. So you have a pair of scissors, some needles, and you have some assorted thread to use as well. It was super easy to get. You can go to the dollar store and get one of these for about $1. So pretty cool, I think. Why has this been so useful? Honestly, you would be surprised the number of times I've sewn my own clothes. I once had this pair of shorts that I sewed so many times and I didn't even have the right color thread. They were like beige and I think there was like pink and whatnot on these shorts. They looked pretty bad, but they were like my hiking shorts, so who cares, right? Having stuff that you can use longer and not have to throw away and buy new stuff is pretty cool, I think, and super handy if you don't have access to buying something new at that moment. I'll give you an example, which I actually have, is a pair of pants that I ripped because I think I sat on a weird rock. And let me show you. So here was a big hole and you can see where I sewed it up. Right over there. I will give you another example. I also have a hole that I fixed there, and there's also a tiny little hole that I didn't fix. I was like, not big enough, I'm just gonna leave it. But yeah, so that's a good example. You could also fix like a rip in a bag or a purse or something. Maybe you could do that with a sewing kit too. I haven't had to do that myself, but I definitely would try if I had to. That's number one. The next miscellaneous item I give you the paring knife. Paring knives are super useful. Basically, if you're staying in places where you're going to be making your own food or snacks, this is super, super, super handy. If you're staying in a lot of hostels, they often don't have a lot of access to cutlery, depends. So having something to cut is super, super handy. Good for picnics too when you're on the go and you want to cut stuff up. Another thing that I have that I'll show you is a little pack of cutlery, but it's sort of like a 4-in-1. There's a fork top, knife top, spoon top, and oh god, they're falling everywhere. My other personal favorite of these is the chopstick option. I haven't actually used them in this way, but I mean, it's there if I want. Could be useful, right? The knife and the fork I've definitely used the most, but it is a handy tool to have. Like I said, sometimes you are on a long bus ride and you've packed a food for yourself and maybe you didn't have a fork or something. I think I got this from Winners at some point. I'm sure you could probably order something similar online. Probably not that hard to find because it's like a lunchbox kind of thing. Next, miscellaneous item. Umbrella. Super handy. Obviously for when it rains, but also for when it's sunny. Say you're standing at a bus stop or you're waiting for a train or whatever. It's really sunny, there's no shade, hence comes in umbrella. I've used it for that a few times, but mostly for the rain. It's really good to have when you want to run out and it's raining. I've used this so much, I would not travel without an umbrella. The other thing on that, which I would tag along with this, is to also travel with a raincoat. A lot of places you might not need a jacket because it's pretty warm and you're like, I don't need that kind of layer. That's too much luggage. But what I would suggest for most places, even if it is really hot, bring a raincoat because sometimes you get stuck in the rain and it is really handy to have. I travel with both a raincoat and umbrella because I don't like to get soaked. Next, miscellaneous. Call this the day backpack. That one is obviously for not all my stuff. I use it for just day trips or when I'm running around touring for the day. It's kind of an essential thing. It might be kind of obvious, but sometimes not. I also want to mention this because I like to mention for especially girls, we like to carry around a few things if we go out at night or something. I generally like to carry around a small purse, something I can sling around my shoulder that keeps tight to me. I'm not a big fanny pack person, but I know a lot of people travel with those. They can be also very useful. Next on my list, a travel wallet where you can keep important things like credit cards or passport, things like that. So that I find useful to keep some of my stuff. Tag onto that is that I also like to travel with an extra wallet or change kind of holder. I have this smaller wallet, which I'll also use. So maybe one of my cards and some cash will be in here and the rest in another spot. I also sometimes travel with this is like a small change purse. I can put just a bit of cash that I need. at one point rather than big wallet full of stuff. So up to you, but I definitely suggest to at least have one extra wallet so that you can have that with you during the day and have your other stuff put away for while you're not there. Next important thing, since we're talking wallets, sometimes I feel like people forget this, and this is super, super important. It's a Ziploc bag. It's nothing crazy, super simple. Either a Ziploc bag or a waterproof bag. Here's what I want you to put inside: your passport, because I think the likelihood of someone stealing your passport is pretty minimal. There's not much they can do with it unless they're really trying to steal your identity, I guess. But what is more likely to happen is your passport getting wet. I would keep it somewhere safe like this in a waterproof container, because if your passport gets wet or damaged, that's going to be a big problem for you when you go to cross borders again. So just keep that handy. Next, I want to talk about travel locks. Oops. I usually travel around with a small one. I don't generally use it for my luggage, actually. I use it for a locker if I have access to it. You can get like a bigger lock that, you know, those school locker ones. I generally don't like that one because it's a bit heavier. One of these would probably do you just fine because it's a little bit lighter, still big enough to get around most of those loops, and does the same thing as a lock. That is also good to have on hand to keep some of your stuff safe. I've used those quite a bit. I don't generally travel without them in case I need them. Other than the jacket, the raincoat that I mentioned before, the only other clothes item I'll mention is a scarf. Basically, this thing, obviously I can use it as a scarf. I've used it to wrap around my head to keep sort of my ears and face sheltered from wind and snow. I've also used it to wrap around my shoulders going into temples or mosques. I've also used it around my waist because some temples kind of want you to cover your lower half a little bit more sometimes. I think I might have been wearing shorts. Anyways, very, very handy is a light scarf. Not so light like silk. You don't want something that'll get damaged easily, like something a little hardy. I use it on planes too all the time because I get cold really easily. So I like to have that extra layer. And it's kind of like a great item to have around you all the time because you don't have to like carry it. You can just wrap it around yourself or wrap it around your bag, tie a knot on it. Super easy. I love it. I don't travel without my scarf ever. Now we're going to move into some more personal items. First one on the list, it's a bar of soap. Now I'm not saying you need to get bars of soap. Liquid soap is good too. I usually opt for a bar of some type because I have like this ongoing fear that liquid is going to explode in my bag and make a mess, because sometimes it does. But the reason I'm showing you this now is because I want to bring up the fact that you want to travel with a soap, a kind of soap that you can use for multiple things. So a body soap that you can also use to wash your clothes. Some people have soaps that they can also, like, it's body soap, they'll wash their hair with it. That's good too. But my biggest one is make sure you have a soap that you wash with yourself that you can also wash your clothes with. Because sometimes it's hard to get laundry soap if you need it in like smaller portions, unless someone gives you some at some point. But it's kind of nice to have your own soap that you can just use quickly on like maybe a pair of underwear or something small when you need to. So multi-purpose soap is definitely something I always want to have on hand. Next thing I will talk about is a compact travel towel. Mine actually comes with two. I think I ordered this from Amazon years ago, but basically it's pretty good. You can find even more smaller ones. I wanted to get like a full-sized one so I could use it like for showering, and then I could also take it on the beach. As you can see, it's a decent sized towel, but it compacts down to a pretty small size, which I like because you don't want to be lugging around like proper towels. That's ridiculous. Mine also came with a smaller towel that I use. Sometimes I'll leave it for just like washing my face or something like that. Compact travel towel is a must. Good for when you don't have access to a towel or you want to take it to the beach. Next on my list, this one, I'm sorry, is just for women. This, my friends, if you don't know, it's a Diva cup. And if you don't know about it already, you better get to know. Reason number one,
Diva is the female version of a hustler.
I'm totally kidding, except not kidding. If you haven't tried using one yet, ladies, I highly suggest it. I have pretty much converted almost all my good friends onto this. Why? Because it's amazing. And for travel purposes, we'll focus on that because there are other good reasons to get it. But for travel purposes, you only have to bring that one cup. It's going to last you years. So that means you don't have to worry about finding tampons, pads, or whatever when you're traveling around. There was one time I didn't have my cup on me, and that was a big problem, and all I could find at the store was this massive pad that was like a stack of napkins between my legs. Not ideal. Diva Cup is super awesome because it saves you on space in your bag. The other reason is that you don't have to worry about finding whatever you need in any place you go. Definitely super great thing to have with you. Another personal item I like to have on hand, a sleep mask. Why do I love this so much? Generally, what keeps me up mostly is light. So when the sun comes up, the light is hitting my face, I'm probably gonna wake up. So when you're traveling, say you wanna sleep on planes or whatever, this is key. I also find it useful, especially if you're staying in hostels or shared rooms, when people turn on the lights or like, and then you want to have one of these. So that's why I always travel with this. Even if I have a room to myself, I kind of like using it because it helps me sleep a little bit better. When we're talking about sleeping, the only other thing I'll mention, I don't use earplugs because I find they really bother my ears. What doesn't bother my ears though is these type of earbuds, which got a squishy thing on it. And when I put them in, if I start talking, everything sounds like I'm in a fishbowl or something, like I'm in water. So it really mutes the sound around me. If I play some music while I have those in, I'm not hearing nobody. Definitely a good thing to have when you're traveling around on trains and buses and whatnot and you want to sleep. Next thing I will mention is a battery pack. This one is a little bit heavy. I don't particularly like the fact that it's heavy, but I really like the one I have because it can charge my phone at least 3, maybe 4 times if I'm lucky. Pretty awesome. This is super important when you're in places where you don't have access to electricity, which kind of happens to me a lot, or when you're somewhere and you're going out for like a longer period of time and you know you won't be able to charge your phone or camera, whatever. This is also handy. And what I do really like about it is the fact that it has 2 USB ports, so I can actually charge more than one thing at once. Or some person with me is like, hey, can I charge my phone too? Yes, I can. It's kind of nice. So I mentioned just there that my battery pack had 2 USB ports. The other thing I would really suggest to people before they go traveling is to give yourself charging items where you have maybe more than one USB port. This one on this side, this is like a regular Apple iPhone wall charger thing, only has 1. I have this one over here that has 2, which I love. I love this. I love this because I can charge more than one thing at once, which kind of happens a lot. If you're in a rush to go out somewhere and you realize your phone is almost dead, your camera's almost dead. So then I use one of these bad boys or something. There's different kinds where maybe you could have even more than 2. That is super handy. I would definitely suggest making some room in your bag for one of these bad boys. That's all I'll cover for tech stuff because I'm not going to talk to you about like cameras I use or whatever because that is something that's not really useful. It's just like some cool items. But I wanted to just talk about things that are the most useful for me over the years. Thank you so much for watching. And if you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel because I'll be talking about other handy travel tips as we go along. And I want everyone to have safe, fun, and meaningful travels too. Thank you so much again for watching. See you next time.